Well, it was at first, it must have been in '70, because they were still living in the basement here, and we heard about going down to building on churches down in Bahammas through the MAPS program, and Cat and I had talking about going, you know, and for a week down there, or I don't remember exactly how long it was. Anyway, he decided late in the evening that we'd go, and I had contacted the guy in Springfield, and he said, well, he'd have to get a hold of another guy in Indiana that was kind of running the project, and he'd go down there when somebody would come down there to work. So he called and said that he would be available to go, so we decided to go. Well, we packed up, and it was about 11 o'clock at night when we left here.
The next night?
At night. And we, I think it was Saturday night or something, and we drove. There was Canton and Wayne, his son Wayne, and his son-in-law, Ron Holmberg, and I, in a little Pontiac GTO that Wayne had, and drove all night. And Ken had done a lot of night driving because he had driven truck a lot before that. So he drove that night, and then we took turns, and I know Wayne had some bigger tires or something, you know, anyway, so his speedometer was off on the car. So when Ron started driving, Wayne told him that the speedometer is off, that you're going faster than what it shows, you know, or something, you know. Well, Ron got it wrong, and he was figured it the other way. So he was driving real fast compared to what he's driving so fast for. And we got way down into Tennessee or something, Tennessee or somewhere, and we stopped at some friends that we had known from the church in Monticello. And then we drove on stayed there a while, and then we drove on down to Miami. Got to Miami about 9 o'clock that night, and there was a church there that had a place for us to stay overnight. And then in the morning we went down to the airport and flew over to Bahammas, and got over there, and there was the church didn't have a pastor at the time, so we got to stay at the parsonage, and the church owned a car there so we had a car to get around, because this church was farther off from a few miles from where the parsonage was that we were building. It was a new church. They had the walls up, and some of the roof was up. I forget just exactly what all was up. And we had to frame in for the windows and stuff. And so then we went down, or we worked there, and I was the designated driver because we had to drive on the left-hand side of the road.
They're still working on him here.
But we had a left-hand drive car. Right. So that was lots of fun. Because you're following somebody and you want to try to pass them. Yeah. Well, you had to be a full way across to the other lane before you could see if somebody's coming. So you had to trust the guy that was sitting next to you that it was clear to go across. So he took and we do there, and I did all the time that they were there. Well, then they were waiting for the windows to come, and they were at the loading dock finally, in
Oh, really?
Nassau there.
I suppose you're gonna send it.
And they took and I says, I thought about that ride back in that GTO cramped up in there all the way back to Minnesota. That didn't excite me a bit. So I told the guy that was running it, I says, well, if you can make sure that the windows will be here next week, why, I'll stay and work another 3-4 days to get those windows installed. And Canton and Wayne and Ron flew back to Miami and drove the car back. But I still had that car to use all the time, you know, so I drove around quite a bit, you know, evenings, and went to a Chinese restaurant in different places. And
Chinese restaurant in the Bahamas.
Yeah. Like a non-fucking bottle of Johnny.
and then
That's true.
then we went to
Pick his brain to-
well, we got the windows all in, and I flew back to Miami, and then I caught a plane back to Minneapolis. That was the days when you could just go up to the airport and buy a ticket and get on the plane.
Could be.
And flew into Minneapolis and got
Could be.
David picked me up at the airport. So I took David's car and was going to go see Grandma in Zion. And driving in Zion, and here I turned on toward the street toward her place, you know. And all of a sudden I realized I was driving on the left side of the road. I had so stressed myself to drive on the left side of the road.